Most businesses worry about hackers breaking in from outside in. But what if the threat you're scared of is already within your company, wearing your badge, answering support tickets, and helping your customers? My name is Dr. Mukhtar Lasisi. I'm the founder of Marshall Technology and a cybersecurity consultant. I want to talk about the Coinbase incident that happened recently in May 2025, or I believe April or May 2025. I'm not exactly sure when it happened, but we know it was discovered not too long ago. Coinbase, which is one of the most security forward companies in the world as we speak today, a cryptocurrency company, in case you're wondering what company that is, they were really tested. In fact, they were attacked. They were not attacked by malware, ransomware, or even a zero-day attack, as you might think. This company was attacked by its own people. And this story, please don't get me wrong, is not about blaming Coinbase. It's about learning, because what happened to Coinbase could happen to anyone, any business of any size. So stay with me. So this is what happened, and I will just explain this in simple terms so we all learn from it. Cyber criminals, for whatever reason, maybe they've tried to get into the system and they couldn't. And we've heard stories like this before, cyber criminals physically going into a company, plugging in a USB. That's kind of a familiar story, but this is different, right? These cyber criminals, they approached the overseas-based customer service reps of Coinbase, who had limited access. Of course, they had limited access to Coinbase user data. They offered them money in exchange for that access. So some agents accepted, unfortunately. So this is not about, oh, we don't know what our security responsibility is. They did accept to take money in exchange for customer data. Now, take note of this. This attack hasn't come through a firewall. They didn't come through whatever systems you've set in place. They bought their way in through the employees. They took names, email addresses, physical addresses, last 4 digits of social security numbers, banking details, all of this handed over to the bad guys without breaking a sweat. Now, we can all imagine what they'll use that data for. They'll use it for social engineering, they'll try to use it to commit fraud, and what have you. Now, Coinbase detected this breach fast enough, and they acted fast. They fired the bad actors, the ones they identified immediately. They launched a full investigation, and most importantly, they decided not to pay the $20 million ransom, which I didn't mention earlier. The bad guys actually asked for a $20 million ransom to not sell this data. Coinbase chose not to pay it based on public information. They protected their users and offered a $20 million reward for anyone that can help to catch the criminals. That's what they did. So with that said, here's the big lesson. Imagine, this is a cybersecurity attack, obviously, but it wasn't about a weak technology. It wasn't because that security wasn't good enough. It wasn't because they haven't put the right tools in place. It was about an underestimated human risk. Most companies today outsource customer service and IT, and that's normal. That's no problem. Right? We are an MSSP ourselves, so that is normal, and it's not the issue. The main issue is, do you know how motivated and trained those people are in whatever part of the world they are in? And are they paid well enough not to be tempted by offers like this? No. Desperate people can do desperate things, right? And are you watching for early signs of risk, like disengagement, resentment, or financial stress? That's why some companies would even check your credit, do a credit check on you before you're hired to know if you're in that kind of financial state where something might tempt you, or you might have to actually do some things to take care of your situation. Now, in today's world, especially in this tech space, there's so many layoffs, there's so many instabilities, and there's constant pressure. So some employees, they see opportunities like this, a quick bribe, as a way out for themselves and their family. Just, you know what, I'll just take it and settle, right? But it's not an excuse. but it's a predictable risk in the world we are in today. So businesses, please take note. Cybersecurity professionals, please note that this has started. And for these cyber criminals to be bold enough to take this action, and for some employees to actually take the bait, or not take the bait, or just to connive with them, it's not going to be the last. So what do we do about it? You may not have Coinbase's budget to build insider threat resilience. All you need is clarity, culture, and control. You need to know which roles have access to customer or business sensitive information. You also need to use certain tools to flag anomalies. Again, not spy. I'm not saying spy on your people and check what they're doing every day. But if someone suddenly downloads 500 files or accesses data at odd hours, the system should catch it. And as another thing is, you need to strengthen your vendor relationship. So how do you train their staff to meet your own cultural needs? How often do they rotate these people? You know, something I learned early on in my days managing my family business was this idea of rotation to reduce the risk of, I'll call it, stealing. Someone in charge of inventory wouldn't be in charge of sales, and the next week the same person you work with today wouldn't be the person you work with next week. So it will be so hard to coordinate and figure and say, oh yeah, I know I work with this person next week, and let's do that. So let's do certain things. The idea of rotation, I've preached it a lot, and it's coming up again. Now, you need to have clear policies on the implication of violating certain rules, certain policies. So what happens if that person is caught violating your trust? Now, another thing that we don't talk a lot about is culture. It's a culture over control. So if your team is afraid of layoffs, they're underpaid or feeling invisible, they become easier to manipulate. So I want us, businesses, to build a workplace where people feel valued, safe, and rewarded for doing the right thing. Another thing I would also point out is responsible leadership, and I will give Coinbase, based on what we know so far, I'll give them credit for this. They didn't hide this incident, and that's why we know about it this early. They didn't delay action. They communicated transparently and took responsibility. That is real leadership. You know what we say in security is there is no such thing as zero risk, but we can reduce the likelihood or reduce the impact. But when these things do happen, sometimes about when, not if, when these things do happen, are you as a company, as a leader, bold enough to take the action that is required? Coinbase showed this based on public information. Now, I would say this before I leave. Security isn't just about firewalls and tools. It's about people. You can't automate integrity. You have to build it through leadership, culture, and proactive design. If it can happen to Coinbase, a company that size with that kind of budget, it can happen to anyone. And I have a strong feeling that this might happen again because they've tested that idea and it worked with one of the biggest companies in the world. They would like to try it again. So the real question isn't, are you secure? It is, are your people secure? And if you're not sure, let's help you find out. That's what we do. And my name is Dr. Mukhtar Lasisi. I'm a cybersecurity consultant and the founder of Marshall Technology, a company that helps secure your digital transformation and your people. We also help people build practical experience to navigate the cybersecurity world. Until next time, stay safe, stay secure.